So today is part 2 of going over the 613 commandments. So we're going to continue reading them. Remember, some are to do and some are to not do. So where are we up to? 122. This is from Chabad.org. Some of them are a little out of order, but that's okay. To marry a wife by means of ketubah and kedushin. Ketubah is the written agreement, and kedushin is the holy ceremony. Not to have sexual relations with a woman not thus married. Not to withhold food, sexual relations, or clothing from a wife. To have children with a wife. To issue a divorce by means of a get document at the time of the divorce. A man must not marry his ex-wife after she's married someone else. To perform yibum, which is to marry the widow of one's childless brother. To perform chalitza, which is free the widow of one's childless brother from yibum. The widow must not remarry. Basically, in other words, the man marries his brother's wife after the brother died, as in honor of the wife of the brother. And then if they have children, the first child is like from the dead husband. The widow must not remarry until the ties with her brother-in-law are removed by this chalitza. Chalitza is where literally they spit in a shoe. And then she doesn't have to marry the brother. She's like freed. The court finds one who sexually seduces a maiden. The rapist must marry the maiden that he raped. He's never allowed to divorce her. The slanderer must remain married to his wife. He must not divorce her. To fulfill the laws of Sota, which is the woman who was alone with a man after her husband told her not to be alone, and she drinks a special water that has God's name in it and dust. Like ash and like charcoal, like coal, basically dust. And she either dies a terrible death. It could be delayed if she has a lot of merit for if she really was intimate with the man, or she becomes extra fertile and has children with her husband after if she was innocent. Not to put oil on the meal offering of the sota, the offering that's given by the woman, even if she's innocent, just because it's a bad circumstance. Not to put frankincense on her meal offering either. Not to have sexual relations with a mother's father's wife. With a mother, with a father's wife. This could be like a father's wife that's not the mother. Sister, father's wife's daughter, so this could be like a half-sister. The son's daughter, the daughter's daughter, the woman and her daughter, so a lady and her daughter, a woman and her son's daughter, which is her granddaughter, right? A woman and her daughter's daughter is another type of granddaughter. Father's sister, mother's sister, father's brother's wife, this is your uncle's wife, son's wife, brother's wife, sister-in-law or daughter-in-law, wife's sister, a different kind of sister-in-law, man with an animal, woman with an animal, man, with someone's father, with someone's father's brother, with someone else's wife, with a menstrually impure woman, not to marry non-Jews, in other words, non-circumcised men, or women who were born from a non-Jewish, basically I wouldn't even say just circumcised, because some Jewish people never got the circumcision, but actually someone who's born from a non-Jewish mother. Not to let a Moabite or Ammonite male marry into the Jewish people. This is specifically 2 nations. Now the Rambam, Maimonides, this is not listed here, but says that it's very hard for us now to know who's exactly who, so we cannot do proper testing at this time. Not to prevent a 3rd generation Egyptian from marrying into the Jewish people. In other words, an Egyptian convert, somebody who's an Egyptian and converts to Judaism, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd generation cannot marry a Jewish person, but the 3rd can. But I don't understand how they're having children if they're a convert. So maybe 2 converts are marrying each other. Not to prevent a 3rd generation Edomite from marrying into the Jewish people. Preparing latrines outside the army camps, in other words, bathrooms. They should not just pee and poop everywhere. Preparing a shovel for each soldier to bury his poop. To appoint a priest to speak to the soldiers during war. This is someone to give them spiritual encouragement. And this is why the Jews were such amazing warriors, because they always had a priest. It was always a spiritual war as well. They always had spiritual armor. Not to offer peace to the Ammon and Moab while besieging them. We just mentioned they're not allowed to marry Jews, so they're kicked out. So we don't offer peace when besieging them. For example, let's say we need their land, or there's some other thing that we're having a war with them, the Jewish people. We're not allowed to offer peace. Not to destroy fruit trees, even during a siege. When let's say taking over a place, can't destroy, and you're destroying everything, can't destroy in order to be successful at the war, cannot destroy fruit trees. Not to let a eunuch marry into the Jewish people, someone who castrated himself. Not to castrate any male, even animals. High priest must not marry a widow. High priest must not have relations with a widow, even outside of marriage. High priest must marry a virgin maiden. It's not a regular priest. This is a high priest. A regular priest, a Kohen, must not marry a divorcee. A Kohen, a priest, must not marry a Zona, a woman who had a forbidden relationship. There's a whole list of different Zona. Zona is somebody who married a non-Jew, somebody who was a prostitute, and so on. A Kohen, a priest, must not marry a Chalila, which is a desecrated person. This is a product of, let's say, a high priest married a widow and they had a child. That's called a Chalila. The child is a desecrated person. High priest who had relations with a widow or a non-virgin maiden, a priest who married a divorcee or a Zona, any of the children that come from this are considered a desecrated party, desecrated person. Number 175, not to make pleasurable sexual contact with a forbidden woman. To examine the signs of animals to distinguish between kosher and not kosher. 177 is to examine the signs of the animals to distinguish between kosher and not kosher fowl. 178 is to distinguish for the kosher and non-kosher fish, locusts, and we should not eat non-kosher animals, non-kosher fowl, non-kosher fish, non-kosher flying insects, non-kosher creatures that crawl on the land, non-kosher maggots, worms that are found on the ground, on the fruit, in fruit on the ground, creatures living in the water other than kosher fish, meat of animals that died without the ritual slaughter, not to benefit from an ox that was condemned to be stoned. I think that refers to an ox that was killing people, goring them, and the owner did nothing about it after being warned multiple times. Oh no, that's when the owners also, okay, wait, we'll get to that. Sorry, this is when an animal kills a human, a gores. I think they are stoned, I believe. So an ox condemned to be stoned, we cannot benefit from that ox, from its body parts or from it as food. Meat of an animal mortally wounded, limb that was torn off a living creature. What else is not kosher here that we can't eat? Blood, any blood. Certain fats of clean animals, sinew of the thigh. Now, I want to pause and say blood. How do we make sure there's no blood? Jewish people have a special way of salting the meat, which draws out all the blood. And people who are sensitive will say that they could tell the difference between kosher and not kosher when they become Jewish. And they could see that it's a little saltier. Anyway, so we said no blood. Okay, certain fats of the clean animals, in other words, the kosher animals. The sinew of the thigh. This is because of commemorating that the angel of Esav, of Edom, actually struck Yisrael, which is Yaakov, Jacob, by the thigh. A special sinew called the Gid Hanashe in Hebrew. We don't eat it. Mixtures of milk and meat cooked together. Also, we cannot cook milk and meat together. Any bread from the new grain before the Omer. So the new grain, like, let's say you harvest by springtime, and then before, if you don't wait the 7 weeks after Passover, you can, it's against the law, against the Torah law, including also the parched grains before the Omer and the ripened grains before the Omer. Fruit of a tree during its first 3 years. It's called orla. Orla literally is like the word foreskin. It means like you can't eat it, the fruit of the tree, for its first 3 years. And on the 4th year, you bring it actually. We might get to that. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So the fruit during its first 3 years, you cannot eat. And then it's holy to Hashem right after. And then you could eat it after that. You bring it to Jerusalem. But anyway, 1 second. Let me have a drink. Okay. No fruit of the tree the first 3 years. And you cannot plant diverse seeds together in a vineyard. So let's say you want to plant some cucumbers and it's a vineyard, you're not allowed to, especially when they become mixed, the seeds. Because sometimes it happens that a cucumber and a grape seed will mix together and you get some weird new fruit. And it's like you basically natural but genetically modified in a way, because you're mixing two different species. Not allowed to do it. Okay, then fruits that are untithed. Tithe, it means tenth. You have to take a tenth for the priest, and even for the Levi, and even for the tribe of Levi, right, where the Kohens come from, especially in the tribe of Levi, from Aaron, the priest from the Bible. Till then, we've been tracking the priests. The priests have a lineage since then, and specifically, there's a truma and a meiser. So the meiser is a tenth, and then there's also a truma, which is given from the, basically even the Levite has to give a portion to the priest. Okay, not to drink wine poured in the service to idols. to ritually slaughter an animal before eating it. In Hebrew, in the Jewish way to say it is called shecht. Shecht means to ritually slaughter. It's a special way to slaughter where there's no pain and the least amount, there's no pain, there's no suffering, the least amount of pain, very quick, very easy, without causing any stressful hormones to the animal. And then to cover the blood of a slaughtered beast or fowl with earth. To send away the mother bird before taking its children. And I'm going to stop here and continue shortly in another video with part 3.